Welcome, everybody, to our weekly episode of HDI Local Chapter's live stream show. I am your host tonight, Tom Wilk. Sorry, Maddie B is taking a break this week. I know we'd all love to see Maddie. She'll be back, no worries. But before we get started with another awesome guest, let's talk about our show sponsor, Robert Half. Robert Half is a talent solutions company that provides top IT talent for your company, your organization, to help you keep your business going. They can get you people for like projects, contracts, or even full-time permanent basis. But check this out. They're not only about supplying talent or getting people jobs. They also have a lot of cool information out on their website at roberthalf.com/technology. You can find things out like salary guides, career advice, interviewing advice, hiring advice, do's and don'ts for hiring managers and companies. A lot of cool stuff. So check them out at roberthalf.com/technology. All right, let's get on with the show. Our guest tonight is a personal friend of mine from, if you listen to the pre-show, just a few hours to the west of me, Tim King. Tim has over 30 years of IT management experience from manufacturing, software, and financial industries, and so forth. And he also is the current president of the Mid-Ohio Local HDI chapter. And he's also a district president for us, too, on the national level, if you were listening to the pre-show. And he's also the vice president of IT governance and service delivery for Corporate One Federal Credit Union. Hey, Tim, welcome to the show, man. Thank you for being a guest.
Oh, thank you, Tom.
You know, as we talk, we only have a little bit of time, as we tell our guests, and you have so much to share. So I felt like I've known you for a long time, but what I didn't realize was how you got into IT. And we love on this show to talk about people's journeys into IT to help share with other people. So, Tim, first question for you is, what were you doing before you got into IT?
Sure. It's kind of interesting on, my journey into IT. It's probably not your typical journey. I was actually a manager for McDonald's way back while I was going to college. And I was going to school for electrical engineering, and I knew that probably wasn't quite what I was looking for, so I took a little step back. And I knew I did really well in computer classes, whether it was programming or whatever in my curriculum. And I knew I wanted to do something with computers. So I found a job at a manufacturing plant. So I actually took a pay cut, left McDonald's to get into computers, and started out as just data entry for a quality control department at a manufacturing plant.
Wow. So, I know we chatted about this, but like manufacturing, like they have IT groups? I mean, especially when you got into that?
Well, back then they didn't have an IT group initially. I actually worked my way up within a year of being there to being the quality control manager.
That makes sense.
We manufactured automotive parts, so we dealt a lot with Ford, GM, and Chrysler.
Gotcha.
And a lot of my job was, hey, GM wants to come in and do a quality audit, or, I've got to make a run up to Detroit to somewhere to meet with an engineer. But as I was doing that and seeing the need for more automation within the plant, within the front office, I actually built our computers from scratch. Back then, that was the thing to do.
Right.
It was cheaper than buying something. So after I built several computers, quality program was doing well, they decided, hey, we need to put in a network, and we need somebody to watch over the network and manage the computer. So voila, I turned into an IT manager.
That's awesome. And it's funny because even today we think some industries, they kind of like drag their feet when it comes to technology. I think not so much anymore because modern technology has really helped out, but I think like the healthcare industry. My wife worked in the healthcare industry for a long time, and like to see them even have a green screen, that's how far back we go, right? Green screen, they were doing green screens when we were past the build it yourself, computer, because like you mentioned, that was the thing to do back in the when Michael Dell started helping us not have to do that all the time, right? But you're right. So thinking the manufacturing, especially like auto industry, we all hear about like even I think early on like robots building it, but I don't think people really thought about technology that runs it behind the scenes, right? So it's interesting, to think. What we like to share with our audience is different areas that you can get into in IT that's not always, not professional gaming or even programming. I mean, we like programming and everything, but not everybody's not everybody's cut out to be a programmer. I went to school for computer science, like after my career change. That was my career change, and I really didn't dig programming, so I didn't get into that. Nothing wrong with programming, it just wasn't for me. So it's neat to hear, like, in the manufacturing. So what, did you like the manufacturing side, and what did it do for you, like your contribution and what your goals were there?
Yeah, I definitely like the manufacturing. As I've been in different industries, whenever I was with a manufacturing company, it was a lot more hands-on, and I like that. And having the opportunity to, be on the shop floor and, watch a process. The machines are working, the workers are doing what they're doing, but where in that process can we insert technology to make things more efficient and make it easier for the worker or better quality for the part? And I really like getting into that process improvement.
Yeah, and here's the cool part. Like, most of us, not all, because if you're in healthcare, this could ring true. For most of us in technology, it's not life or death situation. But in the manufacture, I should say, but in the manufacturing area, it is critical. Things go down, people are scrambling, right? Because you're stopping a production line.
Yeah, and that, as you know, Tom, I'm a early bird. I like to be at work early, and that started back in the manufacturing days of
Gotcha.
Processes running overnight. As far as what parts they had to make for the day. So I was always, in there at 5 in the morning to make sure that everything ran all right. Because, like you said, if they didn't have everything ready to go and they were down, you're costing them a lot of money.
Yeah. So, talk to us a little bit about your transition into where you are now. I mean, going from IT, you're talking early IT days where you built the machines from scratch for a company to debugging and figuring out, like, we take for granted today, I/O stuff, like interrupts and mice and keyboards and everything's Bluetooth. But back in that day, it was challenging. I mean, you're talking switches on the motherboard and different things and a lot. Yeah, exactly. But now, and then you moved into a different area. So where are you at now, and what drove you there, and or not drove you there, but why where you're at now, and what is it?
Yeah. I mean, it seems odd that, now I'm vice president of IT governance.
Yeah, like that's totally different than IT hardware, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, the progression was kind of natural if you think about it. I said I was in quality control, working with quality audits, the auditors, processes, procedures. But I always had an interest in learning. I told you they wanted to get a network. They put in a Novell network. Okay, I'm going to get certified. So I became certified Novell engineer. My next job, they had Novell and wanted to get into Windows NT. Okay, I'll become an MCSE. I was one of the first 10,000 MCSEs. To tell you how long ago that was.
Wow.
At that point, I was also working infrastructure with switches and routers and, expanding my knowledge. Whenever I see something, I want to learn about that and become proficient. Then I worked for a public company, so Sarbanes-Oxley. So more procedures, more policies.
Lots of procedures and policies.
Internal auditors, external auditors. So, dealing more with governance. And then I started the job where I'm at now in the financial industry. Started out as just the service delivery manager overseeing the service desk. But then the opportunity came up where the person that was running our governance left the company, and they knew my background with auditors and procedures and policies, and they said, hey, how about you fill that role, but still keep your other role? So you get to do both. So
let's unpack that a little bit. So most of us get the service delivery manager. It's kind of the role I'm in now. But let's talk about that IT governance piece for people that thinking about IT, because a lot of times we think about IT, information technology. It's either hardware, service desk, or programming. What is governance in governance in a nutshell? For those that don't know.
Yeah. So in my role, I'm the IT contact for internal auditors and external auditors. Being in the financial industries, specifically credit unions, our governing body is the ask a lot of questions about procedures, how's the security on the network, who has certain rights. So it's a lot of making sure our processes match what we do and if they make sense, and just, trying to show how secure we are to the auditors. But I am that single point of contact at the beginning. If they have any questions of IT, they go through me.
Nice. Almost like the project manager of like making sure you got your ducks in a row, got your stuff together, right? Yeah. And it's a very important role. And, I know a lot of people don't think about it, as the governance part, but it, especially like you're talking about the finance industry, but it's in the healthcare industry, like that, the SOX and Sarbanes-Oxley and all the ISO whatevers. And, it's very important. And I think most people in that work for companies, even in IT, they don't really think a lot about the governance component of it, right? And you save our bacon a lot of times, and you keep, like, I appreciate your position because you keep the auditors away from me, so I'm not going like, oh my goodness, what do they want? You kind of know what they want. You're used to dealing with it, and you're that liaison, really.
And then, you mentioned ISO. I have to know a little bit about ISO. Our internal auditors like to use COBIT, of course, ITIL. Our security guys always refer to NIST. So there's a lot of different frameworks and, governing bodies and stuff that you really have to watch and see what they're doing and how they prefer things.
Yeah. So for people watching our show, we try to share a lot about different parts of the IT industry. And, one of the things that Tim said that I think is really cool, because it's after my own heart, Tim, I've done a lot of different things in IT, and I think that's the cool thing. If you really like technology, you like to constantly be learning, there's so much in this field to do. Don't limit yourself to just one thing, It's, for example, you and I talked about service delivery, right? Service desk managers, right? If you're working help desk or desktop support, you can be learning so much. You touch so many things. You have the opportunity to really learn a lot. Even if you can't touch it directly at where you work, you can be researching it. I tell my wife this all the time. The internet was like the single greatest thing that we could have gifted ourselves on this planet to learn different things. Yes, you have to be careful but really, for the most part, there's a lot of cool things out there that you can learn. Even the companies now that provide these, they all have YouTube channels for their products and their technology. So if they're not telling you the truth on their channels, well, we're all lost. But I like how you said, you started out for, working, and it's funny you mentioned McDonald's too, because there's a lot of technology in McDonald's nowadays. It is crazy. Every industry, as we talked about, like, manufacturing, every industry has technology. So think about what you like. I'll give an example. When I went to the higher education, I had a boss that he was a amateur photographer and model train guy. And he said, oh, my dream job is to work for a train company. He is now the CIO of a train company. And it was his hobby, but he turned it into something that he liked to do. So, well, Tim, we're almost out of time. So what I want you to do is give any, parting knowledge gift to our audience on, recommendations, suggestions, tips on getting into either like manufacturing or even governance, because I don't think a lot of people even know what either one of those really are.
Oh, that's a good question. As far as just, manufacturing, if you like the hands-on and getting out there, getting dirty on the line and helping processes, and you've got a keen mind for process improvement, by all means, try to find a company that affords you that opportunity. And, like I said, governance for me was kind of just natural over time. I don't think early on I would have said, yes, I want to be interfacing with auditors, but as certain jobs where I've had to do that with different technologies and different industries, that's just something that I've grown to like. I like making sure the processes are correct, and I'm very detail oriented. So
yeah,
I've done very well with that.
So for you all out there listening, like if you like the hands-on things, which, come on, man, not only do you get the hands-on, but you learn something almost new every day in the manufacturing world, right? Because that throw you right into like hands-on stuff, which is I love that. But for those of us that in the IT world that say we're OCD or we're very detail-oriented, governance and quality assurance, man, that is a job you should consider. And if you don't like dealing with people a lot, it's not necessarily that's a people, like you do deal with the auditors and things and other people, but you kind of rule you're kind of like a owner of your your own space there, you know, being able to control and make sure things happen. And it's really not a bad deal, I think, Tim. So, well, you know, Tim, you know, if people that didn't watch the pre-show, you know, thanks, Tim. Tim is not only one of our local chapter officers in the Mid-Ohio chapter, but he's also a district president on the West Coast for us, covering the West Coast chapters, I should say, and helping chapters stay alive and provide awesome programs and opportunities, networking for all of you out there in the service and support industry. So we definitely encourage you to you know, think about joining HDI local chapters. I got the address there at the top. And Tim, he's got a great chapter in Mid-Ohio, all over the United States. We have wonderful chapters. So Tim, I want to thank you for being our guest. I know we've wanted to get you on here for a long time. I know you may not have known that, but your name came up early on, you know, and was just trying to get the stars and the moons to line up to get you out here. And man, if I'd have known your story about manufacturing and all that, I definitely probably would have had you on earlier if we could have, because it's a great story and a great opportunity to put out there for people thinking about getting into technology. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Tom, for having me. It was a pleasure.
And thank you, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We'll hope to see you next week, where we'll have and actually next week, and I'll put it up here when we do our closing, but next week's guest is one of the service and support technician winners from 2022. So awesome to hear from somebody that may not have even known about HDI, joined the community, and won an award for being great. Although he'll tell you it probably wasn't great, but he is. He's great. So thanks, Tim. We'll see everybody next week, and stay safe, everybody.